What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the stream. And today we've got Season 4 of Moneyball with those Colorado Rockies. Let's jump right into it. We came into the 2027-2028 offseason with a clear identity. Strong up the middle talent, rising pitcher depth, and a core starting to take shape. But there was still some work to be done. Rather than rushing the process, we stayed focused on complementary pieces that could elevate the floor and extend our competitive window. That mindset guided a series of trades, a few sharp free agent bets, and some key long-term commitments. Let's start with the trades. We started by dealing away starting pitcher Jensen Guardado, one of our higher upside arms with 86 potential, to the New York Yankees in exchange for outfielder Spencer Jones. The thought process here was simple. Jones fits our model. He's MLB ready with big-time raw power, and he takes his walks. And he gives us some legitimate ceiling in the outfield. For the Yankees, with their surplus of young outfielders and an aging rotation, adding Guardado was a logical flip. With our growing surplus of pitching prospects, we had the flexibility to make a move like this without compromising our system's depth. Next, we moved starting pitcher Tommy Kim and his 81 potential to the Athletics for shortstop Max Muncy, who's now projected to take over third base for us. Free agent market for infielders was underwhelming, and Muncy, while somewhat capped in upside, brings a solid glove with some pop and a near league minimum price tag. Kim wasn't one of our top tier pitching prospects, so this felt like a calculated move to address a roster need without overpaying. From there, we moved into free agency, and for the first time in this rebuild, we made a legitimate splash. We signed Nick Lodolo to a 4-year contract worth $15 million annually. His surface stats don't tell the full story. Look under the hood and you'll find an elite strikeout-to-walk ratio and some strong peripheral numbers. After a rough 2027 season, he was undervalued in the open market, so we were happy to jump at the opportunity. This is the kind of smart risk we're finally in a position to make. We also added 2 high upside relievers on 1-year deals, in Sir Anthony Dominguez for $5 million and James Karinchak for $4 million. Dominguez has been steady throughout his career and offers both performance and potential trade value. Karinchak, on the other hand, he's really volatile. He's an elite strikeout artist with walk and home run issues. Still, at that price, it's an upside swing well worth taking. On the extension front, we locked up 3 core pieces for our future. First, Victor Vodnik signed a 6-year, $9.3 million annual value deal, buying out his arbitration and a few of his free agent years. He's quickly developing into one of the best relievers in the game, so we saved a good chunk against his projected market value. We also extended Harry Ford on an 8-year, $10 million AAV, and Adael Amador 8 years and $7.6 million AAV. Both are still on league minimum deals with their renewable contracts, so we're overpaying in the short term, but this is a bet on long-term upside, which could turn into some big savings later on, especially if their 2027 breakouts are signs of things to come. We rounded out this offseason by selecting Robert Gasser in the Rule 5 draft and converting him from a starter to a full-time reliever. We needed a second lefty to pair with Evan Justice, and Gasser's pitch mix and makeup could play really well in short stints. All in all, this was a focused, intentional offseason. No panic moves, no overreactions, just a team that's getting smarter about where to spend, when to commit, and how to leverage surplus. We enter the 2028 season with a $106 million payroll, still well under our $110 million budget, and with arguably the most complete rotation we've ever had in our 4 seasons. The lineup's top half of Amador, Williams, Baldwin, Toglia, and Ford has the potential to do some serious damage. And while the bottom half of the lineup has some question marks, there's power and upside in Jones, Muncy, Bernabel, and Veen. This roster finally feels like a contender in the making, not in a year or two, but now. And here we are for our post-May check-in, 2 months into the year, and our record doesn't quite tell the full story. We've been hovering around 500 all year, but a brutal 2-8 stretch has us 10.5 games behind the red-hot Dodgers on the season. Offensively, we've held our own with the team slash line of 253, 321, 412. Unfortunately, our pitching hasn't really stood up and matched that level of performance with a team ERA of 4.48. It's really been our Achilles heel early on, which is the opposite of the last couple of seasons. Looking at the MLB hitters, Jet Williams is having a strong bounce-back campaign. He's really producing a lot of quality at bats, and his above-average defense is really steadying the ship at the top of our lineup. He's back to looking like the franchise piece we invested in. Harry Ford signed his extension in the offseason and then just started raking. His bat has exploded out of the gate, and his defensive flexibility has only added value. 14.8 batting runs tells the story. This is all-star caliber production we're getting out of him. Once again, proving steady and reliable, Zach Veen continues to contribute at the plate and holds down center field really well. The numbers aren't impressively flashy, but he's a foundational piece. Spencer Jones is slugging really well and is flashed in the power department, but the on-base percentage could use a little more love. A bit more patience at the plate could unlock another tier for him. Drake Baldwin got off to a sluggish start offensively, and he's got a low batting average and actually negative batting runs, which is different for him. Still, his plate discipline remains strong, and I think we can trust a bounce back will come in the near future. Mashing to the tune of a .513 slugging and .862 OPS. The only real issue here for Max Muncy is a sky-high strikeout rate, but if he could trim into that just a little bit, I think this bat can become a true force for us. Lofton has been serviceable off the bench, giving us some decent defense and an okay on-base percentage, but the bat's been a little light. We're going to need a little bit more power out of him to justify his consistent usage in a more everyday role off the bench. Warming Bernabel has an average of .291, and that's really keeping him afloat despite having a walk rate below 2% and lack of power. He's hanging on for now, but he's going to need to evolve quickly if he wants to stay there long term. Adele Amador just continues to hit, plain and simple. His on-base percentage and contact skills are legit. We just need him to show up in the power department a little more frequently. He's becoming a major asset nonetheless. And finally, it's been a tough stretch for Taglia. He's not walking very much, and he's striking out way too much. And while his ISO is still strong, there's not enough overall offensive value right now, so he's going to have to pick it up as the season goes on. Looking at our pitching staff, Max Meyer, don't look at his ERA, it's been a little rough, but his underlying numbers are elite. He's got a .235 FIP and a sub-2 base on balls per 9. That is outstanding. He's really due for some major positive regression in the near future. He's still every bit of what we're paying for in our rotation. Chase Dollander is doing a good job of keeping runs off the board, but his strikeouts per 9 is still really low, down around 6. And this continues to be a red flag for me, to be honest. He's still getting results, but I need him to miss more bats. Nick Lodolo is another victim of surface-level bloat. His ERA is up at .534, but this doesn't reflect a solid FIP of 4.01 and a strong 9.69 or 9.6 strikeouts per 9. We're betting on a bounce back coming here soon. Luis Patino's been serviceable across the board with a .392 ERA and solid peripherals. However, his strikeout numbers are slipping a little bit, so he may be due for some correction in the near future. Chase Petty has got a strong 10.2 Ks per 9 and 1.19 whip, but his home run issues are still a bit of concern. Other than that, though, Petty's kind of trended well, and he looks like a nice long-term rotation piece going right now. Jaden Hill's been flat-out dominant, a .278 ERA with elite control. Plus, he's giving up fewer home runs than he has in the past, which is really a nice development. If he can find a true put-away pitch and up that strikeout rate, he could be a real monster. Victor Vodnik is lights out in the closer's role. No other way to put it. Great extension this offseason. He continues to strike out guys at a high rate. He limits damage, and he's really looking like that bullpen anchor that we thought he could be. Sir Anthony Dominguez has a really strange profile. His FIP is elite at .297, despite a very poor strikeout rate. Overall, though, he's been effective, but the sustainability is questionable with more strikeouts. Evan Justice is still refining his command, but the upside is becoming real. He's emerged as a late-inning option with some nasty stuff, so I love seeing that out of the lefty. Robert Gasser has been a revelation. His ERA is barely over 1, and while his FIP suggests some regression, he's been more than just a pleasant surprise. He's been legit. James Karinchak has been pretty much as expected. A jaw-dropping 15.2 Ks per 9, but of course, too many walks and home runs. Very high risk, very high reward every single time out. You really don't know what you're going to get out of this guy. Jake Eater is just not working right now. His ERA, whip, and FIP have all ballooned. He's not commanding the ball. It's hard to see him sticking around in a meaningful role long term without a turnaround soon. Down on the farm, it looks like Drew Jones took the experience from the MLB last season and kind of built on it. He's got a 745 OPS with solid walk and ISO numbers, and he's showing a more mature approach, even with a slightly elevated K rate by previous seasons. He's not breaking out, but this is definitely a step in the right direction. Sammy Marquez's bat hasn't quite come alive yet, but he's seemingly making some solid defensive strides, which is good to keep him on our radar. He's not hurting us, but he's also not forcing our hands yet either. Gonna need him to show a little bit more impact with the bat. Lorenzo Juarez has put together a steady, well-rounded performance so far with good on-base percentage skills, but his power remains a little underwhelming for a third baseman. At just 20 years old in AAA, there's plenty of time for him to grow, but I'm still waiting for that next gear. Hope has been a little underwhelming since we acquired him from the Dodgers last year. His OPS is down to 659 and the strikeout rate is kind of through the roof, so it's not really what we were looking for out of our bat-first corner outfielder. There's enough raw power to be intrigued by, but it's just the full picture's not coming together quite yet. Cam Collier has kind of had a power outage to open the season. It's kind of puzzling, but he's still producing some positive offensive value, so that's good. Still, our expectations for him are higher than this, so he's going to need a second half surge to really reassert himself in our future third base picture. Charlie Condon, let's not do this again. Marco Vargas has been a smart offseason pickup for us. He's already turning heads. Elite walk to strikeout ratio and some sneaky pop have made him one of the most productive bats in the system. Keep an eye on him as a riser. Curtis Peck, breakout. That's the word we're looking for. That's what we were looking for out of our first pick in this franchise. He's finally tapping into his physicality, flashing real power while continuing to take walks. Exactly what we were looking for when we spent a first-round pick on him back in 20 and 25. Herb Ricker had a rough pro debut last season, but he's rebounding nicely, getting some more loud contact and showing some of those advanced plate skills that we expected out of him. Early signs suggest the bat is finally catching up to his raw tools. It's been quietly a productive year for Francisca. It seems like he's finally starting to settle into AA ball. Strong walk rates and sneaky gap power have him trending straight up. And if he keeps this up, he could be seeing a elevation to AAA in the near future. Rough first half for Geraldo Sixto, the guy we got from the Giants last year. I really was expecting more out of him than a 548 OPS. He's really not showing enough plate discipline, which was supposed to be one of his better attributes when we acquired him. And his contact quality is not what we were hoping for and expecting out of a premium defensive position. Athleticism is still there, but his bat is just in the ground right now. Jack Kemmel just gets harder and harder to justify as a draft pick every single time we check in on him. His power's not there, his contact's getting worse, and he just has no defensive versatility. There's really no positives in this guy, and it's just, I think the light at the end of the tunnel is just about to go out. Switching over to pitching prospects, Jude Rivas is dominating AAA hitters with his elite control and improving swing and miss stuff. 2.74 ERA is rock solid with a minuscule 1.6 base on balls per 9, showing how advanced he is with his approach, and he's knocking on the door of the majors, believe it or not. We may see him before this season is over. Aguilar's ERA and whip are phenomenal, even if his strikeouts haven't come quite yet. He continues to defy expectations, pitching like a modern-day finesse ace, a la Kyle Hendricks. It's weird, but it's working. Mike Black has been crazy good. An 0.95 ERA and 0.71 whip with no home runs allowed. He's just been absolutely absurd, and if Robert Gasser wasn't in the picture, he probably would already be up in the majors. Don't be surprised if he leapfrogs a couple of guys in the near future and becomes a long-term piece for us. Juan Chavis just keeps delivering. ERA under 3, FIP under 2.5, and a 9.2 Ks per 9. Mwah! Delicious, fantastic, we love it. He's pitched himself into a serious call-up contender at some point this summer. I just can't keep him down if he keeps playing like this. It's been another slow start for Brody Brecht. It's a pattern he's developed in the minors these last couple seasons. He keeps flashing that plus stuff, but his command lapses and early season rust are what's holding him back consistently. For the first time in his pro career, Norm Patterson looks a little lost. His ERA is ballooning up to 5.61 and the whip is really inflated, so it's time to see how he responds to adversity for the first time in his career. The regression has finally arrived for Robert Iwamuro. He's been just dominating minor leagues ever since we drafted him, but it seems like it's catching up to him now. The walks are up, the home runs are up, and the dominance from last year has just faded. How he adapts mid-season will say a lot about his long-term viability. LP Langevin has some ugly surface numbers, but there's some hope. The FIP and component ERA suggests some poor luck and some defensive lapses, so hopefully the high strikeout rate keeps him intriguing and keeps him pushing forward and he starts to lower some of those surface numbers. I told y'all to watch out for Christopher Ruiz. When we talked about last year's draft class, I said this guy could sneakily be one of the best guys in our class, and he is showing that early in his pro career. A 2.54 ERA and 8.8 strikeouts per nine with some excellent peripherals in his first full season shows he's pretty ahead of schedule. Exciting early return out of him. Tim Harris is a rock. ERA and FIP both below 3, and he's limiting the walks and not letting guys barrel up the baseball. Might be the highest upside arm in the system not named Rivas. Smooth operator so far for Johnny Robinson. Nothing flashy, but the 3.65 ERA has some solid peripherals to go with it, and he's looking like a solid first-year pro. Nicely establishing himself. Now, Chase Mobley has lost a little bit of shine this season. He had performed well in AA the last 2 seasons, but his strikeouts and command have taken a little bit of a step back. Not a disaster, but definitely regressing by comparison to previous season performances. Finally, James Napick, our first-round draft pick from last year, showed a decent debut this year. Strikeout rate isn't eye-popping, and he's been a little homer-prone, but he's throwing plenty of strikes, and he's competing well in his first taste of professional ball. Skipping ahead, we've now entered the 2028 MLB draft, and we'll be selecting 14th overall, which is a sign of progress both on the field and in the rebuild. After leaning heavily towards pitching last year, the goal this time is to prioritize position players without compromising on upside. And early on, that strategy was put to the test. In the first round, 2 of our top-rated bats surprisingly fell to us at 14, Alex Marcello and Pablo Garballo. Garballo came with louder tools and arguably the higher ceiling, but also a little more volatility, especially with questionable plate approach and a lower floor. Marcello, on the other hand, checked multiple organizational boxes. He brings projectable power, advanced plate discipline, and a strong likelihood to stick at third base. Given how consistent that profile has been in our developmental model, Marcello was the clear choice. In the competitive balance round, we faced our biggest decision early, with 2 starting pitchers, Frank Colon and Anthony Ponce, on the board. Each of them with intriguing upside, but unclear floors. Instead of drafting one of those guys, we shifted gears towards a reliever in Marco Rodriguez, whose combination of near MLB readiness, big stuff, and legitimate ceiling as a high leverage option made him too appealing to pass up. A risk in terms of positional value? Maybe, but his impact potential is real. And when you know it, both Colon and Ponce were still available in the second round for our pick. Colon still carried that volatility, but the projected stuff and physical maturity at age 20 give him a legitimate path to a mid-rotation role if things break right. We took the gamble on ceiling here, and I'm okay with it. By the third round, our scouting pool had begun to thin quite a bit, and we pivoted towards a known strength. Sbarboari isn't flashy, but he's shown elite command with a knack for limiting walks. If the rest of the arsenal develops even modestly, that control base could give him a shot to eat innings at the next level. Now in the 4th round, I was targeting this shortstop Manuel Valdez as our pick came up. I was hoping he would stay available to us, and sure enough, there he was. This is going to be a blind shot, but he could have some really, really high ceiling, but the floor could also be very low. He's very raw, but it's really going to come down to his starting overall, so if he even comes in at a halfway decent spot, it's going to be a really, really good value pick in this class. And if one blind shot was good, why not 2? Johnson was initially our fallback to Valdez in the 4th round, so when he was still there in the 5th round, I didn't hesitate taking him. He fits the mold I'm looking for at this part of the draft, with a high ceiling, even with the risk of being unscouted, and he offers some potential high upside as an infield piece. In the 6th round, we're closing our draft a bit off script. Instead of our typical teenage reliever dart throw, I'm going to take a scouted guy and a teenage starter instead, who rose up our draft board late in the process. Profile suggests a possible potential breakout candidate, and it feels like the right time to roll the dice at this juncture. All in all, I think this draft is a pretty decent haul. Marcello was one of our top-ranked bats, and we managed to grab both high upside arms we initially passed on. Marco Rodriguez gives us a rare reliever who can make a big impact on our major league squad sooner rather than later. And our 2 blind shot shortstops could wind up being this class's wild cards. I feel like we got the right blend of upside, value, and organizational fit in this draft class. Now we're at the trade deadline, and this one's going to be a little different. Heading into this deadline, I had a strong feeling this was the moment to take a big swing. Time to go out and get a young star that could elevate this roster from competitive to contending. My priority was trying to find somebody in their mid-20s, ideally still in their arbitration years, and someone we could trade for and lock up long-term. After scouring the league, I zeroed in on a surprising seller, the Washington Nationals. They've already dealt away James Woods, so they were clearly open for business, and what followed was a monster of a deal. We're going to be making a trade with them where we send Chase Dollander, Zaire Hope, and Cam Collier, and in return, we're going to get Dylan Cruz. Now for the Nationals, they get a legitimate high upside package to kickstart their rebuild. Hope brings some major raw power and athleticism to their future outfield, while Dollander is already an established mid-rotation starter with team control, but somebody I had lingering long-term concerns about, which is why I'm okay dealing him away. And as far as Cam Collier goes, he may have plateaued a bit for us, but he still offers some good power upside and defensive ability at third for the Nationals. Now for Dylan Cruz, a true 5-tool outfielder with strong defense, speed, and a solid offensive track record. He's having a bit of a down year, but his ceiling is without a doubt massive. We believe in Cruz, and I think he hasn't even come close to hitting his peak yet. And this is just the kind of gamble you make to go from good to great. For our second trade, we kind of had to change our focus a little bit as we just traded away a rotation piece. And we're going to be sending Spencer Jones and Nick Lofton to the Miami Marlins for Noble Meyer. Miami's going to add 2 controllable bats in Jones, who's a big-time lefty power bat with good size and ability in center field, while Lofton is a plug-and-play utility infielder who's done pretty well the last 2 seasons. For a team just starving for offense, this is a worthwhile deal. Now for us, since we traded away Dollander, we needed to replace him with a new young arm that could be controllable and cheap. Enter Noble Meyer. Just 23 years old and still waiting on his MLB debut. His strikeout ability is legit, and while the walks can be a concern, he's cheap, controllable, and has some real solid upside. For our third and final deal, we're going to be sending away Seranthony Dominguez to the Houston Astros for another young reliever, or younger-ish reliever, Alex Santos II. The Astros get a depth bullpen arm in Dominguez, even if he's struggled a little bit, and Houston gets them for pennies on the dollar. For us, we get a young minor league arm in Santos II, who could be in the majors in the near future. It's a value-preserving move on our end while we quietly offload an expiring piece. Coming away from this trade deadline, to be honest, you have to be able to take risks if you want to be great. And swinging big for Dylan Cruz is just that kind of move. Now, I understand we're playing with fire financially a bit, and budget space is going to be shrinking fast. But if Cruz becomes the star we think he can be, we'll look back at this deadline as an inflection point for us. We gave up a lot, but fortune favors the bold. And we're not going to waste any time. With Dylan Cruz now in the building, we're going to lock him up in the long term, agreeing immediately to a 7-year deal worth $28.6 million per year. This is a calculation aimed at preempting a ballooning arbitration value and a free agency that could easily push past $35 million annually. While he'll still be expensive during his final couple years of arbitration, this deal flattens the long-term cost curve and ensures we retain a premium outfielder through his prime. A bold investment, but one that reflects our belief in Cruz as a cornerstone of this franchise moving forward. After that trade deadline, the question still remains, how well did we do with our draft this season? While our first round pick, Marcello, isn't the top tier prospect we thought he might be, but he offers a pretty solid first round floor. His power plays best against lefties, though it's still developing against right-handers. Overall, a steady, albeit unspectacular profile. With our second pick, Rodriguez looks like the future bullpen piece we thought we were getting, with high B potential and near MLB readiness. This pick could anchor what may become a dominant relief corps in the future for us. With our third pick, finally, we break our A potential drought. Colon is our first true high ceiling arm in this series. At 20 years old with a mid-50s starting overall, he's still a bit raw, but he's already limiting the walks and building those strikeout numbers. A promising combination. Our fourth pick, Barbory, projects as a solid mid-C potential with 65 starting overall. Decent, respectable starting overall and piece that could go forward as an innings eater down the line. And if 1A potential wasn't good enough, why not 2? Valdez is a massive steal in the fourth round. He's got that A potential I was hoping for at 93, and his starting overall is perfect, right where I wanted it in the high 50s. He could be a future star for us, and this is a huge win in the middle rounds. In the fifth round, Johnson was a lesser asset compared to Valdez, but he still holds some solid potential. For a blind shot, he's in a pretty good spot and could contribute meaningfully in the future. Finally, with our last pick at 66 overall and 72 potential, with good strikeout rates, this guy is a solid 6th round pick. That being said, I'm seriously considering shifting him to the bullpen early on because his profile just screams impact reliever. He's giving me Juan Chavis vibes for some reason. Anyways, this is easily our best draft class of the rebuild so far. This is the kind that sets our foundation as a perennial contender going forward. Now it's just on us to develop these prospects and then go out and execute on the field. Checking in on our lineups and rotations before we go to the rest of the season. The lineup has seen some notable changes as the season progresses. Now we're going to be sliding Dylan Cruz immediately into the 6th hole, providing a much-needed boost of 5-tool talent with solid power, speed, and defense for our lineup. His presence should stabilize the middle of the order and add some consistent run production down the stretch. On the mound, Noble Meyer is going to be a direct replacement for Chase Dollander in the starting rotation. Meyer's strong strikeout ability and controllable contract profile make him a promising long-term piece for us, so let's see what he does in his first cup of coffee. His transition will be key as the rotation looks to stabilize after sending away Chase Dollander. The bullpen gains a significant boost as we finally called up Juan Chavis at just 20 years old. His dominant stretch in the minor leagues suggests he could be immediately impactful in relief, injecting some fresh talent and firepower to really help us solidify some late innings matchups. We have finally reached the end of this season, and you know what? All told, not too bad. Taking a look at our AA squad, the Hartford Yard Goats, they finished 70-62, securing a playoff berth, and eventually would make it to the championship round, but to no avail. A solid campaign that shows the depth of our system, especially with a few standout prospects pushing for future MLB roles. Now the AAA team, on the other hand, wasn't as good. Finishing 61-89, they continued to struggle as a team despite some strong performances from several individuals. The challenge remains to convert promising talent into consistent winning production at the highest minor league level. Starting off with the hitting prospects, Lorenzo Juarez continued to demonstrate a well-rounded offensive approach with a .260 average and solid plate discipline in AAA. While his power numbers are still not quite where I want them to be, his consistent contact and walk rate help him contribute positively overall, making him a dependable bat as he fine-tunes his approach and power. Sammy Marquez showed some encouraging development in his raw power, but it hasn't quite developed at the plate yet. His .271 average and steady on-base skills at AAA are promising signs, though, and he's on the cusp of becoming a more impactful hitter. Welben Francisca had an impressive season, thriving after his promotion to AAA. His batting average was near 300, combined with an improved walk rate and solid defensive approach as one of the system's more exciting young talents. Herb Ricker was pushed aggressively this year as we snuck him into AAA for the tail end of the season, and while his .234 average shows room for improvement, he made some notable gains against right-handed pitching, which is good for him. His overall development curve looks promising, despite some growing pains. Curtis Beck earned a promotion to AAA thanks to some strong performance in AA, but he struggled mightily in his 165 at-bats at the higher level. His elevated strikeout rate and low on-base numbers make it clear he needs more time to adjust to advanced pitching. Charlie Condon endured another massively disappointing season, continuing his downward trend offensively. His poor strikeout and walk rate suggest he is trending further and further away from his potential when he first kicked off this franchise, making him a significant bust in this system. Marco Vargas experienced some regression after a strong start in AA, but finished the year roughly where he was at the end of May. His steady approach and improved walk rate indicate he still has the tools to build on things moving forward. Now, Geraldo Sixto struggled with strikeouts the entire season and also a lack of plate discipline, which is something I did not expect from him. And this severely limited his offensive impact this year. The elevated strikeout and low walk rates are a big concern, and he's lost some potential as I knocked him down a couple of points. Jack Hamill's development is stalled once again, making it 3 straight seasons with literally no change in his overall. Despite regular playing time, his inability to improve is just frustrating, and it's led me to have to knock down his potential down to barely above 70 at this point. His long-term outlook is now extremely bleak. Looking at the pitching prospects, Norm Patterson rebounded well after some early struggles, and he may be knocking on the door of a major league roster spot next spring. His strikeout rate remains solid, though some command issues will occasionally hold him back. Robert Iwamora's season was marked by a return to earth after a strong start to his pro career, with control problems limiting his overall effectiveness. Still, his strikeout upside keeps him as a valuable asset, even though his potential grade slipped back into the Ds. Carlos Aguilar quietly excelled this year, using strong command to limit walks and keep opponents off balance. His ability to consistently execute pitches while avoiding big strikeout totals is a rare skill that bodes well for his future. Mike Black is ready for the MLB. He just posted outstanding results in AAA this season. Finding him a spot in the Major League bullpen will clearly be a priority for us going forward, as his performance in the minors warrants a Major League call-up. Jordy Vargas struggled at both AAA and in his brief MLB action, signaling that a move to the bullpen may be in his best interest going forward. His performance this year suggests a change of role could help unlock his potential. Brody Brecht also looks like he might be headed on that track as well. He had another difficult season as a starter, and it's maybe just time for him to try to see if his raw stuff plays up in the bullpen instead of using him in a full-time starter role. Alex Santos II was a low-profile deadline acquisition who showed solid, steady results at AAA. He can provide valuable depth going forward for the big league rotation. LP Langevin, on the other hand, he took a big step back, largely due to some control issues, which elevated his walk rate. Regaining his command will be a key aspect for him to get back into a future role of being in our bullpen conversation going forward. Welton Herrera has been a major disappointment in this series, failing to meet expectations and failing to develop appropriately yet again. His performance this year was just another setback for what was once considered a high-ceiling arm in our system. Christopher Ruiz burst onto the scene with a really strong debut this year at AA, showcasing excellent control and strikeout ability. He's quickly established himself as a name to watch in this system. Tim Harris also continues to show that he is the real deal with another strong performance in a full season at AA, and he looks very ready for AAA next year. His consistency and strikeout rates really put him on the fast track for development. James Napick caught fire mid-season after we checked on him after May, displaying the talent expected from a first-round pick. His continued growth will be crucial for this system's pitching future. Chase Mobley struggled with increased walk rates this year, and it kind of hurt his overall numbers. If he can tighten that up, though, he still has the tools to be a solid contributor going forward. Johnny Robinson's promising start faded as the season went on, but he's still only 18 years old, so he has ample time to improve his command and his overall results. Development at this stage is key, and his long-term outlook still remains positive. And finally, Sammy Vargas finally got a full season under his belt, and he performed admirably. His age 20 season is coming next year, and that's going to be a critical development year as he determines his future trajectory in our organization. Now it's time to check out the Major League team, and would you look at that? We're over 500. We made some solid progress this season, finishing 83-79 and being over 500 for the first time in this rebuild. We were in the playoff hunt right until the final days, showing some clear competitive growth. On the offensive side of things, the team posted a respectable 259, 325, 433 slash line, ranking in the middle of the pack, 14th in average, 13th in on-base percentage, and 16th in slugging. Demonstrating some improved balance, but lacking the extra pop to break into the top tier. Pitching was a little bit bigger of a concern this year, with a 4.45 ERA ranking 23rd in the league. While we were stronger in strikeouts than previous seasons, ranking 9th, we also ranked 22nd in walks, so that's highlighting some control issues that likely kept us from making the postseason. Some key individual struggles appeared to hold the club back, but with some roster adjustments going forward and developments continuing, there's reason to believe this team will be playing meaningful games in October in the very near future. Taking a look at our hitters, what a bounce-back season for Jet Williams. He delivered a 5.8 WAR season and posted over 25 batting runs, while also swiping 27 bags. His 805 OPS and 172 ISO marked some real damage at the plate, driven by his usual strong plate discipline. The star tag officially applies. Drake Baldwin mirrored his last season almost exactly, and that's a good thing. OPS of 806 and a 4.7 WAR show he's quickly become one of the most consistent catchers in all of baseball. He's the quiet engine behind our team's offense. Harry Ford signed a long-term extension last offseason and just went out there and backed it up with a career-best production. His 3.7 WAR and elite 25 batting runs mark him as another cornerstone for our franchise. Add a 810 OPS and emerging leadership qualities, this is a winning piece. Zach Veen's bat still hovers around league average with about a 6 batting runs and 723 OPS, but he continues to add major value on defense. A 3.7 WAR is nothing to sneeze at, especially when the glove does so much heavy lifting. It was a tale of two halves for Michael Toglia, a slow start but a hot finish. He rebounded to post a 765 OPS with a strong 226 ISO, tying his career high in home runs. The 1.8 WAR shows he found his footing again after a slow start. Dylan Cruz didn't fully settle in post-deadline after we acquired him, but he still chipped in a 1.4 WAR with 730 OPS. His 6.6 batting runs and defensive versatility keep him valuable even when he's not red hot at the plate. Still a foundational piece moving forward. Dale Amador quietly broke out in a major way. 811 OPS and nearly 26 batting runs made him one of the league's most efficient bats at second base. With a walk rate over 11% and 19 home runs, he's truly the model of a modern hitter. Warren Bernabel was more solid than spectacular, with about a 1.1 WAR thanks to a well-rounded 739 OPS and above-average contact skills. He still didn't quite tap into his raw power that he has, and his walk rate was still low, but he more than held his own. Drew Jones got another taste of MLB action, albeit only 31 at-bats, but once again, he didn't look out of place. He's likely playing his way into a regular role next season, with at least a role as a fourth outfielder. A 34% strikeout rate really crushed Max Muncy's WAR as he was negative, despite a respectable 741 OPS and 192 ISO. Now, he did get a bump to B potential, but his defensive metrics suggest that there's still some ground to make up. Finally, Nick Maton couldn't carry over last season's momentum. Thought he could be a decent piece for us after what he was able to do for us last year, but took a complete step backwards and he's off the radar now. Taking a look at the pitching staff, Max Meyer racked up another 2.9 WAR season with a shiny 3.61 FIP, which tells the story of a pitcher doing most things right. That being said, his ERA was still 4.71, so he's going to have to start showing it consistently in the actual results department if he really wants to take it to the next level. Nick Lodolo also had a 4.12 ERA, but it doesn't reflect on how good he was. 3.7 FIP and 9.5 strikeouts per 9 shows that he was better than his surface numbers reported. Solid year this year with some room to grow. Chase Petty continued to progress across the board with a nearly 10 strikeouts per 9 and improved peripherals, earning him a 1.7 WAR. That being said, his home runs per 9 numbers are still elevated at 1.6, but he showed plenty to justify that mid-rotation upside that we thought he had. Jaden Hill was straight dominant from start to finish this season. A 2.53 FIP, a 1.13 component ERA, which is insane, and a minuscule .8 WHIP. Made him one of the best relievers in all of baseball. Strikeout numbers were still modest, but overall his dominance was anything but. Victor Vodnik just is an elite closer at this point. A 3.04 WHIP, 10 strikeouts per 9, and 1.2 WAR out of the pen. He really is one of the top late inning arms in all of bullpens across the league. Luis Patino, valuable in bulk. 0.9 WAR as a multi-inning guy with a solid 3.83 FIP. That being said, his strikeout numbers weren't as dominant this year, and his home run numbers got a little bloated. His arbitration salary could be a little high this coming offseason, so we've got a tough call to face with him. Jude Rivas did find a way onto the Major League squad in September, and he impressed. A jaw-dropping of 1.6 FIP and 10.5 strikeouts per 9, which is a little bit surprising for him. And of course, just outstanding base on balls per 9 at 0.9. That'll certainly play for a kid only 22 years old getting his first cup of coffee. Gabriel Hughes got another crack at the Major League squad and mostly made it count. His FIP was elevated at a 4.46 and his Ks per 9 was 8.7, but overall a respectable return. Evan Justice took a step back, but still posted a serviceable season. FIP around 4 and 8 strikeouts per 9 were fine, though not the lockdown presence he was trending towards last season. James Karinchak was pure chaos. Seriously, outings had to be fun to watch for this guy because you never knew what he was going to give you. Over 14 strikeouts per 9 is absurd, but base on balls were 5 per 9 and home runs almost 2 per 9. You'll never be bored watching this guy pitch, but you'll definitely be stressed. Juan Chavis made his debut and looked extremely comfortable, striking out over 12 hitters per 9 and flashing promise in only 18 innings. Definitely a kid I'll be monitoring going forward. Robert Gasser was solid, albeit not spectacular. FIP was at a 4.25 and the WAR was just a little bit positive at 0.3. Won't necessarily be guaranteed a bullpen spot next year with Mike Black looming behind him, but not a bad performance nonetheless. Rough year for Jake Eater. I don't think he's going to be back. Probably back to the non-tender market with him. 5.18 FIP and a 5.46 ERA, just spelling the end of his time here in Colorado. Noble Meyer is not ready for the majors, and he showed that across 27 innings. A 9.22 ERA is crazy, and it was backed up by a 5.74 FIP and a brutal 2.63 home runs per 9. Just a little too hittable at this point, so he's going to need a little more seasoning in the minors, but the raw talent is still intact. Taking a look at the postseason, Cleveland, Seattle, LA, and Atlanta are your buys. Jumping ahead to the World Series, it'll be another appearance for the Guardians. This time taking on the Braves, can Cleveland finally break through? Well, they would drop Game 1, but bounce back in Game 2 before the series headed to Atlanta. However, the Braves would take full control, winning both of the next 2 games to put Cleveland on the ropes. The Guardians would keep themselves alive in Game 5, but Atlanta would slam the door shut in Game 6 to take home the 2028 World Series title. I swear I've seen this picture before for Cleveland. When will their misery end? Your World Series MVP will be Austin Riley. Guess he got tired of only winning league MVPs. Acuna is your playoff hero in the NL, while Kefis takes home back-to-back honors in the AL. Stop me if you've heard this one before. Ohtani wins NL MVP. Holy, some bad words I can't say on stream. Y'all check out Yordan's batting average. My God! Hunter Brown and Spencer Strider are your Cy Youngs. Harper and Yordan tops in averages. McGill and Scott are the best bullpen arms. Looks like Vodnik got some love, finishing just behind Scott. Good for him. Warming Bernabel makes it back-to-back years a Rocky has won Rookie of the Year. And Ramon Ramirez wins it for the Rays in the AL. No Gold Gloves again, just third-place finishes for both Veen and Cruz. Harry Ford finished second for Silver Slugger at catcher, despite not actually playing the position. No other nominees, though, so that stinks. Anyways, that's all I got for you guys in this one. I'd say it was a successful season that has now set us up for a pivotal 5th year. This offseason could get spicy, though, with the budget now being a major area of concern. I'll let y'all know how everything shakes out in the next one, but in the meantime, between time, hope y'all have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'm gone. Deuces!